Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. That is a great philosophy. It's a great idea, and we believe it when we believe that the politicians who are representing us stand for what we believe in and are working in our best interest. However, is that the case right now?
Yeah.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming along to the Speak and See show. I ask you to like, subscribe, and click that notification button so when I get information out, you can get information in. We are at a day and age right now where our career politicians seem to be more concerned about gaining mind control over the voters and which way they're going to vote and keeping their jobs than they are about budgeting our money and being diligent with our taxes, which is the main purpose for them. They're in office, one, establish laws, and two, budget our money correctly. Not to worry about which way we're thinking or how we're being controlled with our minds, which seems to be their number one cause right now, and it's just not right. So let's talk about transparency, okay? If we look at transparency in the government, we have a Democrat side 50 in the Senate, a Republican side 50 in the Senate. If we look at the voting that happens, we see 50 Democrats vote yes on this, 50 Republicans vote no on this. Put 100 Americans in a room, 50 of them being Democrat, 50 being Republican. And when we came to if we had a conversation, a reasonable conversation, do you think that it would absolutely go 50% this way and 50% that way? I don't think so. I think we're in more agreement than we are in disagreement, and that's what I believe the people want right now is transparency from our government. If we take away one person's thoughts and try to just tame it and say you got to think this way, then we are no better than a dictator's government. We can try to brainwash people into thinking our way, but the truth is people have moral values that they're not going to change. People have budgeting values that they can't change due to their finances. Now, when we want to see transparency, we wonder, these governments that are in control right now that are dictators, say Russia and China, it's a dictatorship. We don't want that in America. We want freedom. We want transparency of our government, them to open the books for Americans and say, here's our ideas, here's what we want to do. Do you agree with it? It's not about that anymore. It's like, here's what we're gonna do, and we're forcing you to do it. Not cool. Even Jesus in the Bible had transparencies. He had Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, who were all part of his disciples. They all wrote the same books, the same stories, wrote in a different way, more transparent way. Matthew saw it this way. Mark saw it this way. Luke saw it this way. John saw it that way. And Jesus said, yes, I want you to know that transparency for independency of the people is what we need. It's how I created you. You were fearfully and wonderfully made in your own uniqueness. Now they're trying to take that uniqueness away and say, we want you to think either this way or that way. It doesn't have to be like that. The government wants to control your thoughts, how you're going to vote, how they're going to spend your money. And one of those thoughts was the EIDL $10,000 grant. Hey, if we say we're going to give them $10,000 to shut down their business, they're going to shut down the business for small businesses across America. It's probably the biggest well-kept secret in America right now is how the government stole $30 billion from small businesses that were promised them, and many millions of businesses, hundreds of thousands at least, had to close down all around the United States due to this empty promise from the government. Now they want to control your decisions, how you're going to vote. A lot of government officials were voted in from the small businesses saying, hey, they're going to give us $10,000 if we vote for them this direction, and they were voted in. However, that promise was then swept under the rug. Small businesses are going out of businesses and couldn't collect that $10,000 grant. Not alone, it was a grant that was promised to them in the CARES Act that the money ran out, and they promised they were going to refurbish it. However, there was a secret behind that promise, and that secret was done behind closed doors called a policy map. Now, we Americans are furious that the government has not taken that position and given the American people their promise for the CARES Act, for the $10,000 EIDL grant, which we are calling congressmen and our and our state representatives and Senate, and asking them why were we left out? Why were we not told about this policy map? And why are you not opening up to America that there's a policy map discriminating against individuals due to their address? It is a cherry picking time for the American politicians to go and cherry pick their voters and give the money to who they feel would best push their narrative in voting for them. And the politicians are furious that it hasn't gone as part of the plan. The politicians are on borrowed time right now, and they know it, and they're trying to take away your voice. They're trying to take away your voice via censorship of our conversations that we have here because we may not agree with them on their political views, and we might question their decisions. They don't want their decisions or their views coming into question by the American people. They want us to Americans to say, hey, agree with us or you're bad, or you're going to be canceled, or you're in this, or you're a Nazi, or you're a racist, or you're just not part of the in-group in America right now, which is totally wrong because you are the in-group. The in-group does not agree with what the politicians are doing and how the members in Congress and the members in the Senate and the president and the vice, how they're acting right now is not of the American people's views in this country. While the politicians stand up there and say, okay, we're going to cancel debt on student loans, they don't tell you what's going on behind closed doors. Were the student loans taken in this area? Or were the student loans taken in this area? What they will do is they will diminish it and pick who they would like to give their student loans to. Will they help small businesses over in this area? Will they help small businesses over in this area? They'll pick how and who they're going to choose to give it to. And they've been contradicting and scheming ways of doing this behind closed doors. They will go in the dead of night behind closed doors, get these documents figured out and signed with just a couple people figuring out how these documents can be signed and put the legalities in there to block certain people out from gaining these benefits. Certain Americans are being prejudged to get these benefits from the government, from your taxes, and they will come out in the middle of the night, 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and come and vote and pass these laws that take American businesses, American people, American students, you name it, and slide them right under the rug. Then they come out into the next day and in the news and say, hey guys, we did this great act. However, you're only going to hear the good side. There's always a bad side to that. So let's take a $10,000 EIDL grant that was promised to the American small businesses that they would get $10,000 if they shut their business and close their doors during these legislative lockdowns and mandates. It was probably the highest, most costly, broken promise that the United States has ever implemented that was broken behind closed doors. So it would rob millions of businesses out of billions of dollars for getting grants that were promised in the CARES Act in Section 1110C. The government mandated lockdowns on businesses and promised $10,000 to small business for every American business owner. And after these businesses closed their doors and suffered significant losses, they were coerced and under duress, knowing that businesses are just not open right now, the streets are empty, to take loans in this fear-based tactic, only to find out that the government grant that they were promised had a map that came out in legislation that would keep most businesses from getting another dime of the grant that was promised to them. They give $1,000 per employee. They didn't give the $10,000 per business. So the larger businesses got the grants. Meanwhile, many small businesses were denied the grant and therefore their businesses ended up shutting down. This trickery has gone beyond reproach from the majority of the small businesses, with hopes that someone would bring this debacle to the forefront of the media and let the Americans know what's really happening. Lawsuits have been suggested. However, after many attempts to obtain counsel on this, I've come to find out that no attorney is wanting to take this case or open this can of worms. But we have small businesses that have come together and are now demanding that justice be served. Now, small businesses have decided the best way to handle this is to quietly go to the voters' boxes and vote these politicians out that made these promises and get rid of these congressmen and women, these state senators who have made promises and literally behind closed doors slammed the door on the face of the American small businesses. And this is not a conspiracy at all. This is something that I've gone through, that many of those out there have gone through, and we're not going by what the media says. We're not going by what the politicians say. We are going by what has really happened in American small businesses' lives. We are going by what we are presenting, the truth to the American people. That should hold a lot more water than the media. These are real life experiences that we have been going through as small business owners, and we have taken the brunt of the regulations and the mandates and this policy map. With this map, they decided to exclude any small business that wasn't located in a yellow area. There were purple areas. If you lived in the purple areas, yes, you could get this $10,000 grant. Most of them did get it, but a lot of those, even in the purple areas, didn't get it. But however, if you were in the yellow zones, you were excluded from receiving this grant. This was a deliberate plan to stop small businesses from getting the fullness of the $10,000 EIDL grant. This was not implemented by accident or without deep thought into how they wanted this thing to pan out, how this was going to go for them. It was a cherry-picking voters by redlining addresses. It was a massive segregation and discrimination and prejudice rolled all into one fancy little ball in one devious plan that was snuck into legislation, into the new legislation, and written and behind and passed behind closed doors in the dead of night, voted on to keep you out, to keep small businesses out, to shut many small businesses in certain areas down from getting a dime. And you would think that if they would do this once and got away with it, $30 billion away with it, that's a lot of billions. Remember, 1 billion is 1,000 million. So $30 billion, which would be $3,000 million, they did it, they got away with it. You would think that that would be enough. They got away with it once and that would stop them. But without enough resistance and without the throwback from the American people and the American small business owners, the policy map, the government officials are implementing the policy map again and again in new legislation. So this is not just going to affect small businesses. This is going to affect you. They're doing it and doing it and doing it, and they're putting it in new legislation all over the place. The policy map is now being implemented in other policies that's going to keep more Americans out, not just small business owners. Now we're talking about all policy. Now we're starting to make this thing go into a big ball. They got away with it once. Don't think that when the government takes control or gets something done, that they give back that control to the people. They don't. They want to keep it. They want to press it forward. They want to make it bigger. They want to bring maybe the purple areas down and make more people dependent on the government, or the purple areas out, and the yellow areas crushing down. They want to take away one side and give it to another. However, it doesn't work that way. If you're starting to take away from one side, there's resistance. And what should actually be an easy plan turns into this debacle where nobody gets anything except the government officials keep spending the money to implement these plans. The only people getting paid is them. Well, you might be saying, I don't see policy code in this legislation piece. I don't see the policy code in that text. We didn't see the policy code in the text when it was written in the 331, where we got the targeted EIDL advance grants for $10,000 and the supplementals for $5,000. We didn't see policy map per se written in there. We saw IRC Code 45D subsection E written in there, which is now considered the policy map, implemented and done and pushed on the American people as code, so you don't understand it, but now you do. IRC Code 45D subsection E is the policy map, and it's being pushed out there by more politicians, and it's being looked over as if it's just an IRC code. It's just a place for low-income communities. No, it's a policy map, and many of those communities are multi-million-dollar homes in those lower communities. So it's not really just favoring the lower income households. It's favoring that area, which may determine how you vote. So anyway, guys and girls, I want to thank you all for watching. Like and subscribe. I hope you find this information valuable, and I hope that this gives you an idea on where we're at as far as getting that $10,000 EIDL grant. We need to push forward. We need to contact our representatives and let them know this policy map has to be removed. It's got to go. If we can get rid of this policy map, that is the biggest and most important step to getting that $10,000 EIDL grant for all small businesses. Because once that gets removed from this act, that it was already given to those in the area, if we can get that removed and given to those outside the area, we would see that $10,000 EIDL grant go out to all those who were promised it in the CARES Act. And it would be a lot of money. It would be a big help and a big lift up for those small businesses that were declined of that money, and maybe get even more small businesses put back into the game in their small business and moving forward and thriving in this great country. Guys, I want to thank you all for watching again. And somebody say, hey, we still won our 10K.